morning and welcome. You're watching the 8 o'clock news. I'm Rishika Barua. Let's get you the top headlines we're tracking tonight. The Karnataka High Court has upheld the hijab ban. The High Court has said that the hijab is not an essential religious practice. Students say they feel betrayed by their own country. The hijab ban has now been challenged in the Supreme Court. 5 days on, there is no clarity on Goa, Manipur and Uttarakhand chief ministers. Prime Minister Modi today chaired a BJP parliamentary party meet. Pushkar Dhami, Pramod Sawant and Biren Singh, meanwhile, are in Delhi. Yogi Adityanath is going to be in Delhi tomorrow for a key BJP meet. After poll defeat, the Congress party has cracked the whip. Sonia Gandhi has asked 5 state party bosses to resign. Punjab party chief Navjot Singh Sidhu is among those asked to quit. Questions now being asked on why the Gandhis continue to remain safe. The government has ordered probes on accidental missile firing. Rajnath Singh today in Parliament says the missile system is very reliable and safe. Prime Minister Modi defends the film The Kashmir Files. This is a controversial film. Many are criticizing it. The Prime Minister said it's a conspiracy campaign to discredit the film. Meanwhile, in Kiev, 4 people have been killed in airstrikes as a 35-hour curfew that's been imposed from tonight. Nearly 2,200 people have been killed in the port city of Mariupol. The United Kingdom, meanwhile, has slapped heavy tariffs on Russian imports, including vodka. And a COVID-19 outbreak in China. Cases double in 24 hours. 5,000 cases reported in 24 hours. This is the highest in 2 years. 30 million people approximately across 13 cities are under lockdown. Our top story tonight, in a huge setback to students who challenged the ban on wearing the hijab in classrooms across government educational institutions in Karnataka today. It was a huge setback for them when the Karnataka High Court upheld the hijab ban. The court said that the hijab is not an essential religious practice. The ban has now been challenged in the Supreme Court. Students, meanwhile, say they feel betrayed by their own country.
Across Karnataka, thousands of Muslim female students who wear hijab waited for the order. And when it came, it was a huge setback to those who had challenged the state government order banning hijab. The court overruled all the arguments of the Udupi women petitioners, saying hijab does not form a part of essential religious practice. Students cannot object to the uniform prescribed by the institution. As to validity of the government order dated 5th of February, providing for prescription of dress codes in educational institutions, the court said that no case is made out for its invalidation. It was a big win for the BJP government in Karnataka as minister after minister welcomed the order.
कोर्ट का ऑर्डर स्पष्ट रूप से सरकार का नियम को एक्सेप्ट किया है. रूल कर्नाटक एजुकेशन एक्ट में के अनुसार 95 में फ्रेम किया था, उसके अपील किया है. इस कारण से संतोष हुआ है.
But the students who had moved court held a press conference in Udupi, the center of the protests, challenging the verdict.
I don't know whether that lady, that ma'am, the judge knows about what is written in the Quran. It's total injustice what we have got today. It's totally injustice what we have got today, and we have so much hope in our judiciary system, in our society and constitutional values, but we are feeling like we have been betrayed by our own country.
They claim they won't remove their hijabs and won't drop out of colleges.
No, sir. Definitely no. Namge nama religion matte nama education both we prioritize. It's in our priority list. And when the country has given the secular right to follow religion plus culture and education, why is our High Court or Constitution not allowing us?
Though the order applies only to government educational institutions that do not have a uniform code, and the court says the ban is only inside the classroom, not the campus, the worry is that after the order, even colleges that allowed the hijab might ban it, like in this college in Yadgir in North Karnataka, which turned away students today as they came to take their exams. The High Court in its order also hinted at a larger conspiracy at work that snowballed into huge protests. Issue of hijab is generated and blown out of proportion by the powers that be. Some unseen hands are at work to engineer social unrest and disharmony. While the High Court's verdict has come as a huge setback for over thousands of students wearing hijab, in fact, a special leave petition has also been filed in the Supreme Court challenging the High Court's judgment, which says that wearing the hijab is not an essential religious practice. In Udupi, with camera person Kumar, Srija for NDTV.
And well, on to the other big political focus. It's been 5 days since the state election results, and the BJP is keeping the suspense over who will be the next chief minister in Goa, Uttarakhand and Manipur. Prime Minister Modi today chaired a parliamentary party meet in the national capital. Pushkar Dhami, Pramod Sawant and Biren Singh were also called to Delhi.
At BJP headquarters in Delhi, two outgoing chief ministers, Pushkar Dhami of Uttarakhand and Biren Singh of Manipur, met the top brass for talks on whether they are coming back to office. Though the BJP won Uttarakhand, CM Pushkar Dhami lost the election, raising questions over his future. According to sources, BJP state chief Madan Kaushik and senior BJP leader Dhan Singh Rawat are said to be frontrunners of the post. According to party sources, an MLA is likely to be elected the leader in the state of Uttarakhand. However, the supporters of Pushkar Singh Dhami have urged to the party that he had proved himself in the limited time he had got, and many of them are even willing to resign to accommodate Pushkar Singh Dhami.
हमारे मुख्यमंत्री पुष्कर सिंह धामी जी ने 6 महीने के अंदर ऐतिहासिक काम किया और उन्होंने बहुत काम किया है, जनता का दिल जीता है और मोदी जी के एजेंडे को पहुंचाने का काम किया। उनके साथ हमारी शुभकामनाएं।
क्या लगता है कौन मुख्यमंत्री बनेगा?
हमारे ये केंद्र का नेतृत्व तय करेगा कौन मुख्यमंत्री बनेगा।
The government formation in Manipur is not an easy decision for the BJP central leadership, given the fact that there are strong contenders for chief ministership. So we have to wait and watch whether there is a repeat of Assam in Manipur or whether BJP central leadership decide to retain Biren Singh. Also, the party will have to take a final call on whether they will form the government of their own or take allies along.
The main contenders are Chief Minister Biren Singh, Senior BJP leader Biswajit Singh, and a dark horse, veteran politician Govindas Konthujam, a former Congress minister now with the BJP. In Goa too, MLAs took oath at the assembly as suspense remained over who will be the new chief minister. The top contenders for the post of chief minister are Pramod Sawant and former health minister Vishwajit Rane.
ऑब्जर्वर सेंट्रल भारतीय जनता पार्टी से ऑब्जर्वर आने वाले हैं। ऑब्जर्वर आने के बाद उनके साथ डिस्कशन होगा, लेजिस्लेटिव पार्टी का लीडर डिसाइड होगा और बाद में गवर्नमेंट फॉर्मेशन हो जाएगी। आज मैं दिल्ली जा रहा हूँ।
The BJP says they will take a final call after Holi and hold a series of coordinated swearing-in ceremonies to mark the party's big wins. Bureau Report, NDTV.
And while meetings will continue in Delhi tomorrow as well, with Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath going to be in the national capital tomorrow to meet top leaders. Yogi Adityanath will be meeting JP Nadda, Amit Shah and BL Santosh in the national capital tomorrow. The state BJP chief Swatantra Dev Singh is also going to be part of this meeting. Sources have indicated that the meeting is to discuss the names of deputy chief ministers and the new Uttar Pradesh cabinet. Well, staying with political news, after the debacle in the elections in 5 states, Sonia Gandhi has asked the party bosses of the losing states to quit. This includes the Punjab Congress chief Navjot Singh Sidhu. Let's go right across to Sunil Prabhu joining us with the very latest. Sunil, you know, the perception now appears to be that the Congress is on a front foot to safeguard the Gandhis, but all 5 state chiefs have been asked to go after the poll defeat.
Well, it's a mix of both. Actually, to be fair to Sonia Gandhi and the other two, Rahul as well as Priyanka, they did offer to resign. That was rejected as part of that old story, as they say. But nevertheless, the fact is that it's a now or never situation for the Congress party. And that's the reason why we've seen Sonia Gandhi ask the three chiefs, all the five state chiefs to resign. It's in that context that the Congress party has decided to have a brainstorming session, make some major organizational changes immediately. I don't think it's just going to stop with the state chiefs. There are many other people who will be asked to take a break or resign or will be eased out. I think that's part of the process. The writing's on the wall. And as I said, it's a now or never situation which the Congress President Sonia Gandhi understands. If the Congress has to be relevant, they need to do some drastic steps, and it's in that context that we will definitely see in the days coming ahead that certain changes will be made in the party structure if it has to remain a relevant and an important opposition force to take on the BJP-led NDA in the country.
All right, so well, heads will roll after the Congress defeat in the 5 state elections. Thanks very much, Sunil, for joining us with the very latest. This, of course, coming at a time when the senior Congress leader, Kapil Sibal, has been quoted by the Indian Express as saying that it is time for the Gandhis to step aside from the leadership role. He said to the paper that the Congress is living in a cuckoo land, and if it's not aware of the reasons for the party's decline even after 8 years. Kapil Sibal was one of the 23 Congress leaders, remember, who'd written to Sonia Gandhi back in 2020 seeking changes in the party. He said the Gandhis should voluntarily move away, and there is a Congress outside the CWC. Kindly listen to their views if you choose to. There are lots of leaders like us who are not in the CWC but in the Congress and have an entirely different point of view. He ended by saying, I want a sub-ki Congress, not a ghar-ki Congress. Well, let's shift our focus now to Punjab, where the Aam Aadmi Party, after the landslide win, appears to have hit the ground running. Ahead of government formation on the 16th of March, MLAs were seen visiting schools and hospitals in their constituencies to inquire about day-to-day issues.
Chandigarh ਘੱਟ ਤੋਂ ਘੱਟ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨੇ ਆ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਵੋਟਾਂ ਮੰਗੀਆਂ ਸੀ
After a landslide win in Punjab and ahead of the swearing in of the new government, the newly elected AAP MLAs have hit the ground running. Chief Minister-to-be Bhagwant Mann has asked all MLAs to spend time in their constituencies and get going on resolving voters' issues. AAP MLA from Samana constituency in Patiala appears ready to meet challenges head-on, addressing first Punjab's biggest problem, the drug menace. He went so far as to ask police officials to take the dope test in his constituency.
ਪਹਿਲੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਧਿਕਾਰੀਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅਫਸਰ ਨੇ ਸੋ ਇੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਵੀ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਸਮਾਣੇ ਦੇ ਗੈਂਗਸਟਰ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਾਈਂਡ ਆਊਟ ਕਰੋ ਇੱਕ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਚਿੱਟੇ ਦੇ ਤਸਕਰ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਾਈਂਡ ਆਊਟ ਕਰੋ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਇੱਕ ਹਫਤੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਮੁਲਾਜ਼ਮਾਂ ਉਹ ਐਸਐਮਓ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਡੋਪ ਟੈਸਟ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਮੁਲਾਜ਼ਮ ਨੇ
Another MLA on an inspection in a government hospital found a doctor drunk on duty. In another instance, he asked doctors not to misbehave with patients.
ਇਹ ਲੋਕ ਹੁਣ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਚੱਕਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਨੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਮੇਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਸੁਣੋ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਦਬਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਬਿਹੇਵ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਅਗਰ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਕੰਪਲੇਂਟ ਆ ਗਈ ਤਾਂ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਠਾਨਕੋਟ ਏਰੀਆ ਦੇਖੋਗੇ
During the Akali Dal government in the state, Janata Darbars or Sangat Darshans were part of a governance model. But the Aam Aadmi Party, who won this election, will have to go a step further to fulfill promises that will end corruption and be a role model of governance. The first step in that direction, making their own leaders accountable and available to the people. With Mohammad Ghazali in Chandigarh, Bureau Report, NDTV.
Well, let's now get you the latest from Ukraine. It is day 20 of the Russia-Ukraine war, and here are the top developments we're tracking tonight. Amid fresh attacks, there's a 35-hour curfew that's been imposed in Kyiv that begins tonight. Kyiv currently is encircled by Russian forces. Ukraine has said that the death count from the airstrikes in Kyiv has risen to 4. Kyiv has also lost nearly half of its 3.5 million pre-war population. Nearly 2,200 people have reportedly been killed in the port city of Mariupol. The United Nations estimates over 3 million refugees have fled the Ukraine war. And in terms of the latest sanctions, the UK has slapped heavy tariffs on Russian imports, including vodka. Now, the Telangana government has announced that it will pay for the medical education of all medical students who've returned home from Ukraine. There are 740 such students from Telangana who were studying in Ukraine and are now back home. The Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao today has said in his address, "We'll write to the centre to say we will support them." And the government today informed the Parliament that a formal high-level inquiry has been ordered into the March 9th incident of the inadvertent release of a missile from India into Pakistan's territory. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has said that the accident happened during a routine maintenance and inspection exercise, stressing that the government attached the highest priority to safety and security of weapon systems. He assured the House that the missile system is very reliable and safe.
मैं इस गरिमामयी सदन को 9 मार्च 2022 को हुई एक घटना से अवगत कराना चाहता हूं। यह घटना इंस्पेक्शन के दौरान अनजाने में हुई मिसाइल की रिलीज से संबंधित है। मिसाइल यूनिट के रूटीन मेंटेनेंस और इंस्पेक्शन के दौरान शाम को लगभग 7 बजे दुर्घटनावश एक मिसाइल रिलीज हो गई। बाद में ज्ञात हुआ कि यह मिसाइल पाकिस्तान के क्षेत्र में जाकर गिरी। यह घटना खेदजनक है, परंतु यह राहत की बात है कि इस दुर्घटना से किसी भी प्रकार का कोई नुकसान नहीं हुआ है। सभापति महोदय, मैं सदन को सूचित करना चाहता हूं कि सरकार ने इस घटना को बहुत ही गंभीरतापूर्वक लिया है और इसके लिए एक औपचारिक उच्च स्तरीय जांच के आदेश भी दे दिए गए हैं। कथित दुर्घटना का सटीक कारण जांच के बाद ही पता चल पाएगा। मैं यह भी कहना चाहूँगा कि इस घटना के संदर्भ में ऑपरेशंस, मेंटेनेंस तथा इंस्पेक्शन के लिए स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसीजर्स की समीक्षा भी की जा रही है। हम अपने वेपन सिस्टम की सेफ्टी और सिक्योरिटी को सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता देते हैं। इस संबंध में यदि किसी भी प्रकार की खामी पाई जाती है तो उसे तुरंत दूर किया जाएगा। मैं सदन को आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं कि हमारा मिसाइल सिस्टम अत्यंत सुरक्षित और भरोसेमंद है। इसके अलावा हमारे सेफ्टी प्रोसीजर्स और प्रोटोकॉल्स उच्च स्तरीय हैं और समय समय पर इसकी समीक्षा भी की जाती है। हमारी आर्म्ड फोर्सेस वेल ट्रेंड एवं डिसिप्लिन्ड हैं और इस प्रकार के सिस्टम को हैंडल करने का अच्छा अनुभव भी रखती हैं।
And in a huge relief for the Malayalam TV channel Media One, the Supreme Court today stayed the centre's January 31st order to ban the news channel from telecasting over security concerns. The court has allowed the channel to resume broadcast again till further orders. The Ministry of Information and Broadcasting had refused to renew the Malayalam TV channel's broadcast license in 2020, citing national security reasons without disclosing the exact grounds. The channel was banned for its coverage of the Delhi violence and the anti-CAA protests. And well, let's get you the latest from the markets. The markets today snapped their 5-day winning run and finished lower on Tuesday on the back of the upcoming US Federal Reserve meeting. The United States Central Bank is expected to raise rates for the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic at its meeting, which concludes on Wednesday. The BSE Sensex tanked 709 points, settled at 55,777. Nifty moved down 208 points, closed at 16,663. And well, it's only mid-March and there are already heat wave warnings in Mumbai and parts of coastal Maharashtra, with temperatures likely to touch 39 degrees.
It's just March, but it feels like peak summer in Mumbai. The Indian Meteorological Department has issued an alert saying a heat wave is likely to prevail in Palghar, Thane, Mumbai, Raigad, Ratnagiri and Sindhudurg districts till the 16th of March.
उत्तर पश्चिम भारत से चलने वाली गर्म और शुष्क हवाओं के कारण समुद्र की हवा, जिसे हम सी ब्रीज कहते हैं, वह देरी से चल रही है। इसके साथ आसमान भी साफ है।
The weather department has warned of a heat wave in Mumbai, and given that the temperatures have been rising, touching 39 degrees Celsius on days, stalls like these are seeing good sale. गर्मी जो इतने बड़े हैं, लोग ज़्यादा जूस वूस पी रहे हैं अभी?
हाँ सर, आज लगभग 2 दिन से गर्मी ज़्यादा पड़ रही है और लोगों को जो है ना भीड़ है जूस की.
Maximum temperatures have gone up to 7 degrees above normal and the weather department warns that temperatures may remain above 39 degrees Celsius. People are feeling the heat.
मेरे को बहुत ज़्यादा गर्म लग रहा है. देखिए पसीना हो गया पूरा अंदर से और गर्म सहा नहीं जा रहा है.
बहुत ज़्यादा गर्मी है तो उसके लिए थोड़ा गन्ने का जूस थोड़ा राहत देता है.
This kind of a heat in spring is a huge concern for Mumbai. As a coastal city, it's vulnerable to climate change. And the scorching heat brings other risks. The Mumbai Climate Action Plan 2022 prepared by the state government is designed to meet challenges like cyclones, heavy rains, higher tides in the sea, waterlogging, increasing temperatures, air pollution, unseasonal rain and carbon emission targets.
ये जो शुष्क हवाएं लगातार चलेंगी, सीवियर हीट वेव कंडीशन बनी रहेगी. 19 तारीख से हमें उम्मीद है कि तापमानों में थोड़ी सी कमी आना शुरू हो जाएगी और थोड़ा सा रिलीफ मिलेगा.
Doctors are also alerting people about the rising temperatures that will make wearing masks even more difficult.
इससे बचने के लिए लोगों ने अपने आप को हाइड्रेट करते रहना चाहिए, पानी की मात्रा अधिक पीनी चाहिए.
Mumbai has been witnessing a rise in temperature every day for the last 10 days and a heat wave in mid-March is yet another sign of climate change and global warming. An NDTV Bureau Report.